Hey, what's up, guys? Little man with a big opinion here. Today's video, it's a news video. Um, I thought it was uh, kind of interesting that today's the first day that we're looking at current events in my U.S. history class that I'm teaching, and I'm explaining that I use Google News because it's got all the different categories, and typically for every story that they show. Uh, there's 4 or 5 news places out there that they've, put in the same section about the same story, and you can pick which one you want to watch based off of your preference. Or if you're trying to be, unbiased, you can read several different ones and, figure it out for yourself. Um, so, before I get into the news stuff, um, if your Walmart is doing the remodel right now, and you haven't noticed that there's a bunch of stuff that's on clearance, it is one, probably because they're no longer going to be selling that item anymore, or two, them moving the stuff all over the store. There's a higher likelihood of the thing going bad before it sells. Um, at my Walmart, they had the plastic ammo cans that's got the little rubber seal in them. They were on sale for $3. Granted, they're normally 5. From a percentage standpoint, it's a 40% discount. I would just check it out. I picked up 2 of them. That way I can separate my different ammo types a little bit better. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it's just something to think about. So I'm happy because I got one that I can put all of my 9mm in, and I don't know what I'm going to use the other one for, but I'm happy regardless. But onto the news article that caught my eyes. China was doing their military parade for the celebrating basically their version of VE Day, or Americans cared a bit more about it, but VJ Day, or Victory in Europe, Victory in Japan. It is significant because on one hand, it's a pretty big thing for them to celebrate, but also from like the military standpoint, typically countries that do parades like this, they're also showing off their new toys. So I haven't really done a deep dive analysis on like the stuff that they were showing off, and quite frankly, that's not really what this channel is about. So I would say leave that up to the channels that do that kind of stuff, because that's who I would watch anyway. It's a military parade. They show off their guys doing their goose stepping and their new toys, and they show off a bunch of tanks and stuff. A lot of countries do it. Without getting too political, it seems like they're upset when we do it, as a show of force. But it's done all the time. The thing about this that is new, that's got some heads turning, is it wasn't just the president of China that was there in this showboating. So there was 23 or 22 different heads of state there. the two that were significantly important was Kim Jong-un and Putin. The Kim Jong-un one, it's kind of whatever, based off of what I've read in the past, and just paid attention to. I dropped a bullet. I need to pick it up. North Korea has been, getting closer, buddying up with. Oh, it was an important one. It's one of my self-defense ones. But they've been buddying up with China for a while now. Improving their relationships there. So I'm not surprised about that in any way. The Russia one, up until now, President Xi has been, I wouldn't say reluctant, but he's been more strategic on, saying whether or not he agrees with Russia on certain things or not. It's a bit concerning. It's not the most horrific thing in the world, but the U.S. still spends the most money on its military, even with those two countries combined. Even when you combine North Korea in there, I don't know about adding in all of those other countries, but I'm pretty sure we're still fine in that regard. I'm not completely worried about that, but they are catching up. It's something that we cannot outproduce them in the long run. I think, yes, we technically can, but the way our country's going, I don't see that working out all that well. We've kind of been lucky that the next biggest players, either haven't gotten along or we've been able to deter them enough that they don't want to mess with us. So something to think about. If I'll say the word, World War III were to happen. Ukraine is kind of a precursor, in my opinion. It's typically a regional conflict between a couple of people. There's some guarantees by other countries that, work with varying levels of success. Sometimes they're too slow. New alliances forming. They haven't outright said, like, I'm going to protect you and you're going to protect me, like with the Tripartite Pact or anything like that, or the Molotov, Ribbon Pact. But it is something to pay attention to. We were talking about it in class, and the kids were like, "Would the U.S. even win that kind of fight?" And I told them, "Oh, most definitely. Like, if it was us versus China, I think we're winning, pretty handily. If it's us versus Russia, I think that one goes even quicker, in my opinion. If it's us versus both of them, I still think we win. The cost just gets much, much higher. So it's not something that we want to happen. But us as preppers, we need to, prepare for that anyway. That's why I spent $6 on, more ammo cans. It wasn't in the prepping budget. I'm also, perfectly fine doing it anyway. We're going to see how the magazines stack up in here. That fits pretty good. If they all fit, you know, it's not the best container for this, but there's definitely worse containers out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8. No, they do not. No, that one could go on the gun. Or it could fit like this. Oh, am I a genius? Repack it. They all fit. Sweet. But it sounds pretty cliche. It sounds, you know, like standard. But, you know, don't stop the prepping stuff that you're doing. You know, I'm getting ready to make a video talking about a 6-month food supply. You know, be on the lookout for that. I can also say that, you know, it doesn't cost you any money to be, you know, putting stuff aside for a rainy day. It doesn't cost you a whole lot of money. And most of this prepping stuff, it's gonna like, you know, if you went out and bought another magazine for a 1022 and you never used it, you know, until the crap hit the fan, it's going to hold its value, and, you know, you can resell it later. It's probably going to go up a little bit in value. You know, it's a investment that it's not like your car insurance where it's just going to disappear, and, you know, hopefully one day you'll use it and get your money's worth and everything will, you know, be peachy and happy. You know, that's what I'd like to happen. Oh, look, I have it sitting over here. This is about 90 cents worth of oatmeal. The mason jar, I can't do quick math like this. This is 32 ounces. It's like $16.44 for a 12-pack. Let's just say $1.50. So for about $3, it's about 2 days worth of food from a caloric standpoint. No, I don't want to eat this every single day for all of my meals. But this is a hard asset that I pre-froze the oats. I put them in a container. You know, nothing is going to, you know, nothing new can be introduced to it, and everything that was on the oats died in the cold. And as long as this is kept in a cool, dark, dry place, and when I say dark, you know, it's sitting on a shelf with, you know, a light in here isn't going to mess it up. When I say light, I mean like sunlight. You know, sunlight would bleach this and make it deteriorate that much quicker. But that is a hard asset. It is something that is not going to disappear. It is something that I have spent money on and am holding on to. And, you know, when it comes time to use it, you know, I'll be ready to use it. I'll be very, very happy that I have it, you know, to be able to use it. But until then, it can sit there. So continue to stack to the rafters. Continue to, you know, do what needs to be done to protect yourself, your friends, your family, because we never truly know when the bad thing's gonna happen. You know, picking up your 16 can pack of your monsters, that's prepping. You know, anything normal to get you through your day. You know, it's a sad habit, but I got my nicotine pouches. Some people need their smokes. Other people, you know, need medicine. And, you know, I know some people that would fall apart if they didn't have coffee, or sweets. You know, sugar's a big part of my preps. Um, you know, a little sneak peek is a 6 month supply of sugar for 5 people's 150 pounds, and that's using it to supplement your calories. But I'll talk about that in that video. It might come out tomorrow, actually. But any items that you stack is going to make you better. Some people do this more than others. It is my strong recommendation that if you are not actively preparing for something, then you should. You know, spending money on ammo and medical supplies and food and water is going to give you a leg up with whatever the problem is. Stockpiling is great, but also figuring out where these items come from and figuring out what you need to do to produce those items yourself. You know, you're not going to be able to cover everything. Even if you moved out into the middle of the woods, you had 100 acres and, you know, most of the money in the world, you're still not going to be able to cover every single thing in your current everyday life. But all that being said, let me know your thoughts down below. You know, should we be worried about this posturing, this show of force? Leave your questions. I'll answer them. We're so small. I interact as much as I can. Share this with a friend or family member. You know, like it and follow us for more. Catch you on the next one.